Rejuvenation of soul. I want to welcome everyone to another edition of Guidance for the Soul Live. As a channel and as a witness to someone who has done this work, there are times when I come through with the vision of others who are from another realm, right? This is what we're talking about when I bring through those ideas of love of self, right? We are all here connecting on our own terms. And I want you to talk about, it's like talking about what it means to be rejuvenated versus what it means for all of us to do this vision together. How many people are thinking, I know how to rejuvenate my soul versus I know how to rejuvenate my body and my mind? Okay, soul rejuvenation is part of who we are because we are souls reuniting on other levels of love when we do this work. So what can happen is that for those of you who are empathic beings and your energy is being drained, we're talking about the reality of those who know how to deal with the vision of it, and those who are actually in the minds of, I am literally having my body, my mind, and my energy adjusted for each and every soul that I bring through upon the screen. That's the nature of a channel. They are utilizing the energy and the vision of my mind as I set aside my consciousness. When you do soul embodiment, you embody the vision of guidance from your own soul that is able to tap into the nature of all. And that is where it often feels most comfortable for Brenda, because in essence, if you are in the struggle in your life, you're gonna have to be very high in order to bring through those loving messages that many are wanting to hear. So, what is rejuvenation to a soul? It depends on the soul, right? Is that the end of the story? Is that the end of the show? No. What it means is that so many people are in this idea that I am so exhausted from the workouts that I'm doing in my mind or on a body level, the physicality of soul. This was another episode that Brenda was going to be bringing through, because the physicality of soul is something that most people don't actually even know what it is. When you do this work, your body is being utilized, okay, as a function of love, not of possession, not of torture, not of anything destructive, unless you start creating from it. Now, when you do that vision that I am a multidimensional love soul vibrating in various vibrations, that should give you a clue as to who I am and why I might be a little bit tired sometimes. I embody my soul from various vibrations, and not all of them are pleasant. This is the nature of soul work. We're reuniting with our soul visions, aspects of ourselves, not the whole enchilada. We can't do that all here. It's a lot of it, but it's not most of it, because it's those aspects that we left behind here. Others will utilize the vision of shamanic visions. It's not the same. You see, Brenda is in this vision of, I came here and I'm not split. And that is when she was told it's a symbolic vision that most are having when they think they're retrieving aspects of themselves that were lost. It's more like, what paths of discovery didn't I actually choose? How many people are tired of searching for these lost soul visions? How many just want to vibrate in the beauty of, my soul is perfect as it is, I'm not lost, and other aspects of myself are not lost either. So what is it that's actually happening when I feel like I've lost aspects of myself? It could be that my vision is, I didn't do something that I thought I should do. And therefore, what am I? Am I in a moment of regret? Okay, do you see how these are those ideas that kind of get put into our mind that there's something wrong with who we are in this moment? If we are perfect as we are, there is no need to try to find anything else out about us from our past unless your own soul brings it to you as a reference point for some aspect that needs to be addressed. And most are saying that's a retrieval. It is not. It is a memory. There's a memory gland, believe it or not, that is being utilized in Brenda's brain to bring her memories from various realms of who she was. Because those are not the same. Our perspective on what we were can't even be replicated, much less enlightened by us. It would be a recreation of the value system that I inhabited at one point in time. What is to say that those lessons that I learned along the way are somehow in conflict with that? That can be part of it. What if my childhood was meant to be destroyed, right? Some will say my childhood was destroyed by a certain, memory, right? People are having memories planted that aren't actually even valid. That's another vision, okay? And I want to talk about that because I get to see the reality of my future, and my future presents itself to me. That's the bang for your buck. Not about where was I at one point in time. You were in many realms, in many dimensions, in many places for the most part. This is going to ring a bell for people when they start to go, oh yes, that's right, I'm perfect just as I am. What does a regression therapist say to Brenda? I'm able to heal those wounds that are what? We are not broken. We are not needing healing as of yet. See, Brenda knows that there is this idea of my energy being utilized by soul. That's part of it. Some people will say, I need to know what happened in order to, bring it back. Brenda had to go through this process of bringing back aspects of who she was that she'd already dealt with. And yet, because of the nature of a lawsuit, she's had to bring things back. And the reality of it is, I'm reuniting with souls on the other side of the veil in order to bring through the creative vision of love for those that I didn't actually want to ever see again or hear from. Okay, but the only reason that was done was so that we could figure out how to create from a better place. From this point, so that is an aspect of people who are saying, I didn't know what happened to me. So we're not going to deny any aspect of psychological visions, okay? But we want you guys to understand that creating from the present moment is your PowerPoint, okay? And if you are still stuck in the vision that I'm a victim and I don't know why, that's different. Some people may not have access to those memories. Some people would be saying to themselves, I am having things planted. Brenda knows it. She's seen it. Okay? Even the vision of guidance from those who are, quote, channels, you must get proof. You must get validation. You must do that in order to align with those souls who are not just bringing through, it's like validations of love from a family member. Unless that person is unknown to the channel, don't even bother. Because someone will come say, your father, your mother, that they have to bring through proof. This is what I'm going to offer for people. Okay? And people who've actually worked with me do get that validation because they get those experiences brought back from their soul. Okay? And it's to them. Now, when we talk about the nature of rejuvenation, these are for a lot of those souls that are in direct contact with their guidance. And they're saying, oh my gosh, it's so tiring because I'm having this layers and layers of conditioning lifted off of me. You don't have to do that. You can just create from the place of I'm perfect as I am. If I want to go through a process of deconditioning, it's something that would be brought through with your soul. It could be something that's holding you back. But it doesn't mean that it's all like bad, right? If you say, I got to decondition myself from society, that's what a lot of people do, right? Versus I accept everyone as they are, even if I don't like it or align with it in my mind. It's an alignment issue. But when you go through the process of soul, you will hear the whys of what is going on. Not just what's going on, but why and alternate paths of discovery. Most souls will say, I have the free will to choose. And that's the difference. No soul will ever say, you need to go here in order to meet your soulmate, right? I already get that vision, and I passed it up at one point, and I'm just like, oh, I missed the golden ticket because it was a restaurant club experience that I could have gone to, and that soul would have been most likely showing up on the scene. Okay, this is the kind of direct guidance that people are going to want to hear. And when you go to rejuvenation of soul, though, a lot of it is your own ability to tap in and hear the beauty of the beating of your heart, your mind, and it's like that inner peace that many are not having. So and we've talked about this before, if you are in the nature of, I'm of societal impact, sometimes we have to take a break from those societal visions where everyone is saying we have to stir the pot and see what's there. Brenda knows how to do that vision, right? And then we have to go, I'm done for a while, maybe a day or two, before she's back at it again going, boom, I know where I'm at, right? But sometimes our souls are saying, enough's enough. She got wisdom handed to her and another dear soul friend that said, your new year is starting on February 22nd. That's when the fun is about to start. Until then, a lot of my soul resources are being utilized to try and deal with some other issues and not focus so much on trying to create, the most illustrious career. Okay? But sometimes those ideas about what rejuvenates soul is something that will come through from your soul. Your soul will let you know what you need. Okay, many are saying, I just need to be pampered. That's Brenda. I like to get pampered when I need rejuvenation. I want solitude. I want quiet. I want time to hear beautiful words from my friends and family. If I'm out there stirring the pot, do you think I'm going to be hearing a lot of conflict here? Not so much here, but guess where I get to hear it from? But it's not conflict in the way it is here, but it is an understanding that many are saying, wow, I want to do that. I would hesitate to encourage anyone to just go out and start channeling willy-nilly without doing a lot of inner work and discovery. There's no inner demons, people. Those are what people of old, right? It's not old, it's still there discovering itself. But you can get that experience if you create from it. So you might want to think about those words of wisdom that you listen to. This is why a lot of us are discontinuing that idea of I'm going to go sit with someone while they listen to these, ideas of what's evil in the world. Okay, I can sit through a sermon just fine, but I already know the vision of duality, and that's part of it. And many will say, we have proof of it. And I would say, you created from that vision. That's where you vibrate from. It doesn't mean you are that. No one is. It's just that's the nature of a vibration of that tool or that book. So if you're seeing it in others, what do you think you're going to be bringing to you? More of the same. Condemnation is where most people are. It's not about evil. Most people are utilizing a lot of visions for condemnation of other souls. Brenda's having to deal with this in a lot of ways with the idea of the, anti-racist movement. She's in support, but she's like, I'm not doing that work for them. I don't go anti anything. This is an honesty point. Because if I'm against something, that means I'm against myself as well. And I'm not just talking about any visions of race. It could be anti-religion. I'm not anti-religion because I choose not to create with that. Okay? I can see the benefits of it for many. I can see how it lifts many up. But I also have visions of other things that I want to talk about. Visions of sugar plums is where she was headed. The Christmas holiday is something I cherish, even though I am not in the vibration of a religion. I am not Christian. I am a soul if I'm one of all. We would be all, okay? But in essence, it's not about being identified with it. So a lot of people are taking off those identities. And that's usually what can kind of free you up from a lot of the limitations. If you're placing limitations on yourself because of an identity, like I am this or that, and if it has its own ringing of the ear. This is another vision that Brenda's getting. She would be hearing ringing of the ear, but because she doesn't identify as what? My soul took a beating for a while. And so I am more about having people align with who they feel good as. And if it makes you feel good, by all means, utilize that vision. We often feel like there is discord in the world, and that is where a lot of people focus their energy. But when we want to rejuvenate ourselves, we don't focus on the things that are wrong, either with us or with others, unless we are in a place to do so. You'll start to see a different world when you go to your soul. You don't vibrate in the vision of, I need to destroy other people. I don't need to wreck their world by telling them what I know about who they are. You see, that's the nature of the all. We're one beat within each other's hearts when I do my work. It means I'm connected to you whether you want to be connected to me or not. So that is why many will choose a different path rather than the one of, I'm rejuvenated and I'm ready to do the work. Okay? Some of us get rejuvenated by doing things others find limiting or tiring or belittling, right? A lot of people get rejuvenated by getting angry. But as a soul, we would say it's all acceptable. It's all of love. Whether or not you have a great experience of it is a whole different expression. Some people want to see destruction in order to create anew. And that's what's going on in a lot of the places that we're placing our focus. But the reasons behind it are what many would crave to know. Okay, so a lot of the destruction that's happening that is painful is so that we can break free from that vision. And sometimes those are the characters in the play that need to be seen and heard in order for us to say, I've done my work. I no longer need to create with that vision. You see, many people are rising up in this vision of, I'm now being seen and heard for who I am. And that's the nature of what the internet is doing for a lot of people. It's allowing a lot of people to be heard. It's also a lot of drama and trauma being recreated in many people's minds. Do you know how many people I can see resonating in the fact that they are still victims from other people who come on the screen and say there's this problem and that problem, and they're bringing up more and more stuff for everyone to heal, because guess what? What do you think they get when they keep creating the victims out of everybody? More business, correct? More followers? We all sit in our victim states and we vibrate in it and we utilize it for strength, sometimes for power. Attention is where a lot of us are when we do that vision, right? This is why to rejuvenate is to break free of the bonds of victimhood. And then you come into that vision of, I don't need to claim anyone else's less than. If they're in the mindset of a victim, I say, go for it. Do what needs to be done to vibrate out of it. And then see the difference in how you feel. Because many will say, my victim mindset, it's draining. It literally will drain most people. If you are of love of soul and you come to this vision of, I need to be of guidance, you will start to hear the claps with that one. Because this is the nature of what we do when we rise out of that vision. And most people are saying, but I am. There are too many people who are actual victims versus I'm still angry over something that happened that I can't get over. It's in your mind. You were suffering as a child. What does it take to get you to be in this moment? Does your soul need to come through and say the words of love that you've always been lacking? I need the validation of others of my pain is where most go. And so what happens is there's unity in numbers. We sit in our vibration of victim. We unite in our vision of victim. It's a vibration depending on what state of victimhood you're in. And then we say to ourselves, we're going to lift ourselves up. That's where a lot of people go. But a lot of us are not doing that work. We're not saying let's stop the victim mindset. We're saying let's vibrate in it so we can make the change. And that's usually what a lot of people are trying to do. I know this is not right for me, and I need to make it right. And then people start to feel better, right? How much anger do you have to release before you can finally say, I'm done? You see, that's where a lot of people go. They have to release that energy out in order to finally say, I've said my piece. And now I'm free and clear of the anger. And I can create from a place of love of self and others. Do you think most people are doing that work so they can come to a place of rest and relaxation? Or do you think they might be utilizing it to gain following? You see, these are the movements of the world as well. Okay. Now, there's a way to do that vision of I am against versus I am for. So I am for rejuvenation. I am for this cause. I am for this energy work. And when you go from it's like the imagination, you literally know how to use the vision of vibration and energy to create a dynamic of I'm not against anybody, but I'm for this. That's the strength of most people. If you don't want to have that vision handed back to you, you will utilize the vision of I am for rejuvenation. I am for peace. I am for equality or equity or whatever vision it is. And you understand that most people don't know that vibration versus I am so against this vision. What does that bring us? Does it bring us tranquility? Does it bring us unification? So it could be that it's bringing us strength. It could be that it's bringing us friendships, right? It could unite us in a cause. But when that cause is causing you struggle, that's when most people will start to say, I am tired of this work. And that's why a lot of people will find they're out of sync with either the things that society is saying we need to focus on, right? I need to focus on a higher level of love is where the spiritual enlightenment souls are. I need to be free to be me without thinking that I have to be a circus puppet playing out the games that other people are playing. Because that's where a lot of people are, instead of actually doing the work that needs to be done. You don't want to create from a place of rejuvenation, correct? How many people are looking for that and will never get it because they keep going through it's like the hurdles of societal change. That's where we are. And so what we're saying is, for those who are in that vision, because this is not a bad vision, we are making transitions. We need rejuvenation. So anyone who is on the path of change and discovery of it needs to remember that we have to take the pauses in our inner work and reflect on the beauty of what we've done as of yet. So far. Many of those changes that others are thinking they're creating are actually a more destructive process than the actuality of the work that it is, so, or the issue that it is. Because if we have a world where everyone thinks everything is going to, hell in a handbasket, they're not going to like that one. But it's those souls that can see the beauty of the world that actually raise the vibration and allow for the others to do the work of destruction that needs to be done. So there is a balancing act between I'm here to do the destruction versus I'm here to lift others up. Because if we don't have people lifted up, that is going to be a serious issue. This is why we don't encourage all of the children to go to this idea that everything is horrible. There's a beauty in being able to play and have joy and relax and rejuvenate our souls so that we can then rise up and say, now I'm ready to do more of whatever it is that I'm ready to do. Stirring the pot is where a lot of people are. They just stir the pot. There's a lot of people that think they're making changes. They're just adding to the discovery of anger on a soul level. How many people want to know what that feels like? I get to hear from the souls that I look at on TikTok and Facebook and whatnot, and I get to hear what the vision is actually doing on a soul level. Many are beautiful. I have some amazing contributors that I watch, but others are there expressing their beauty no matter what, and I honor them, whether or not I agree with them. But many are not in the understanding of vibration and energy work. And this is where people need to start to understand. If you are telling everyone that in order to be of the light, right, those light workers, they're often the first to burn out. They're the burnout victims for the most part. Because they see those changes, they would have to hold themselves up and take those victim mindsets off. Because usually, unless you're in the vision of I'm of love and I'm of peace and I don't project out the negativity. But when we say light workers, we're talking about those who are sitting there saying, I need to change society or I need people to change. How dare you? You are raising yourself up above others in your mind, or you are seeing something that you are projecting onto someone as less than. You just are vibrating in a different frequency. That is all. And when people start realizing that the frequency bands that we travel on are about us and not them. So if you are seeing everyone else as destructive and horrible and all of that, that's you. That's who you are. That's where you vibrate. It's not a one-size-fits-all kind of vision. Okay, so this is why if you think about that idea of my energy is being rejuvenated, it's not because I'm telling you that. It's about finding the tools that can show you the difference between what a rejuvenated soul feels like versus one of control. So many people are trying to control others with their minds by telling them what's going on in this world, or on this planet, right? It's on this plane. We're all vibrating in beauty no matter what, but let's give people a chance to take a few breaths, relax, unwind, take in the beauty of the world. And if someone looks at me for who I am and says she doesn't know what she's talking about, I'll say, very well. That's exactly my point. For I am who I am. I don't vibrate with the vision of I have it all figured out for everybody. You see, I know better. And when I say that, that's what most people are thinking. But what's happening is on the soul level, the souls are doing their work. I know better that I don't know what's best for any one person, because when I do soul work, it is often not what I would choose for myself or for others. That's the beauty of love of soul. To honor the souls of those who say, I know better, is something I also do. Okay, you feel like you know better. I have my moments of it a lot of times. As Brenda, when she's out of the vision of guidance. Okay, but that's the nature of why we come in and we create this vision of love, because we say we love who we are and we want everyone to feel good and have a great experience. But there are so many souls who aren't, and this is why we're honoring the vision of change. And yes, we are going to have those visions of destruction coming through from other souls who say, I'm part of the change, I'm part of the cause of destruction, is where many go. Because they'll say, how many people are trying to lift themselves up to a higher plane of understanding and they haven't even done their work? And then others will say, you aren't doing your work, you did the bypassing. We say, kumbaya. Anyone that can make it to the level of their own guidance and have it come through and be beautiful and supportive and loving is doing a beautiful thing. So if someone is saying you shouldn't be loving to people, we've got an issue, right? It's not. Anyone can say whatever they want to say, but that's where others are going. Okay, Brenda's had her experience with it. People get uncomfortable with people who want to put out loving messages. They think it's fake and phony. Do you know I don't even script anything? I just come through with what is coming through. This shows you where I vibrate. Okay, I'm not utilizing my mind. These are transmissions of love and guidance. Two different things, always of the same, but they're two different vibrations. Okay, guidance can be of the I'm letting you know where you are, and it's of love, but you may not feel it as love, but it may be showing you where you are. Brenda has that handed to her, and it's not pretty when it happens. It can be a destructive process for her, because if she's in the vision of I'm destroying other visions in my mind because I'm saying, oh, that's not right, okay, for somebody else. Okay, so this is why when you go to that idea of I'm rejuvenating my soul, it means that we all have our own version of who we think we are here and what we need to be. And people are trying to tell us what they think we need to be for them in order to be what? Loved by them? That's the difference. Okay? And people think love means like I want to go up and, give you a hug, or I'm going to adore you. That's your soul vision. You'll get that from your soul on occasion. If you have a session, you're going to be like having your own cheerleaders come through. But for Brenda, she gets held in her heart and in her soul. But she has a mindset that's like no other. She literally knows how to challenge the vision of souls on the other side of the veil as well. That's how badass she is. Because she knows that there is a soul vision of love that wants the changes to happen faster than what she's ready for in her mind. Sometimes we have to go fast. Sometimes we need to slow down. Sometimes we have to move a little bit more. Sometimes we have to take charge of the situation. Sometimes we need to open up our hearts, our minds, and our guidance to those souls who want to come through and say, I was Sylvia Brown, and I said, I'm all that and more, and that's what I created from, and I was all that. She's one of my guides. She's one of the most famous mediums, psychics, that's been here in this plane on one level. Okay, there are plenty of souls who align with Brenda and who give her guidance and say, your ego is what is needed. Others are saying, we demolish the ego. We demolish the vision of love. Brenda has been egoless in the mind for a while. It's more like I am embodied and I'm connected. So I get instant feedback whenever I want it. That's the beauty of who I am. That's the process I went through that most people won't necessarily understand. So this is going to be one of those ideas of, had I thought that I was with someone else, that would have been a deconstructing of my own idea about like disconnect. We're all connected. That's why I can access anybody. If I start reading a book, and this is not to toot her own horn, she starts to hear from the author or some other creative input, or her own soul's vision will come through with that idea of, we're working on some aspect maybe within the book. You have to be able to handle anybody when you go to that vision. And if you're in the vision that there are bad things on the other side of the veil that you're afraid of, you're going to have to deal with that. Brenda's had to deal with that. It's not all bad. This is why when people lift themselves up, they feel so good. And they feel so wonderful. And everything's just like amazing. And then when you walk out of a building or, away from the spiritual guidance, camps or retreats or whatever, you have to be able to keep yourself up in those vibrations. And if you aren't with your own soul's vision, then it gets crazy. And you don't want that. That's why we always say, aim for your own heart first. Don't try to go outside of love. Don't try to make changes in the world in the way, because you don't want to do that really, because they will be those burnt out souls. I'm trying to make a change and I'm trying to force everyone in my mind to do it. No, that's not the way to go. Inspire others through your beauty. And we mean that as in your beauty of your soul, not the physicality of it. Some do, but we would say the physicality of your soul is part of it. Embrace your brains is where some people would say, these brains are beautiful, but they're not everything, okay? It's not just about the mind, and many of soul know that vision very well. Enlighten ourselves to the nature of love, create from the place of a plenty, and we start to vibrate in the beauty of I create from it. The manifesting monsters are what some people are calling, because they think it's somehow wrong. And Brenda will send you those perspectives of those who think that manifesting is somehow wrong, right? Oh, it's of the devil. This is why they won't make it through that process. Because if you're in that vision that there's a boogeyman out to get people, you definitely don't want to be going through the process of enlightenment of soul unless you can vibrate out of that idea that there's a boogeyman that's, on the verge of takeover of anybody. What we have in those cases are those souls that are considered to be lost. They didn't hold on to enough of who they were in their hearts here. And they didn't do enough of the letting go of the anger and the pain. And some of those are the most illustrious of souls who are able to say, I've reunited on the other side of the veil, and I'm not ready to come back. That's where a lot of people go. And they stay in that side of the world where the magic and the mystery and the wonder is, without realizing that it's all here for us to behold. We don't diminish this reality, and so many souls of this plane are trying to reach out to other visions. But we want you to enjoy the world as it is here. And this is why many will say, I'm grounded in this plane. I love this world. I enjoy this world. Whether or not I perceive it or not, I know this is where I'm supposed to be. And that's the beauty of it. So don't worry about, performing the tricks of the trade of those who say, I've got this ability and that ability and whatnot. It doesn't matter. What matters is who you are in this version of love, always. And when you're in this version of love of all, you get the love of all. It makes sense to all of you. You don't have to fight with everybody. You don't have to argue with everybody. You don't have to look for people to find. You're looking for people to find. How many people are like, I can't get along with anybody? That's on you. That's you. It's not everyone else. It's about what's going on with you where you feel like I can't be around anybody. These are those moments, though, and we want to honor it, where people who are going through the process of soul, they might be experiencing soul visions. That's a whole different thing. And if you start to experience the soul and you haven't done a lot of that inner love work, then yeah, it makes sense. Because you need to do this heart before you can start changing others. Okay? So I want to honor all of your hearts, your souls, your minds. They're all beautiful. They're all visions of love. Whether or not you agree with that statement or not, it's necessary for all of us at some point to come into that vision. You want to align with that vision of I love all. Whether or not I agree with their statements or their presentations or their ideas, it makes no difference. I can honor them for who they are in their moments and their wisdom that they are showing me about who I am. Because that's what that is. So with that, I want to wish you all a wonderful holiday season. I will not be portraying myself as anything other than love for the most part. And I am going to be rejuvenating my own soul over the holidays, taking some longer breaks until the new season is over. Because we do have a new season starting where more and more of those visions are of controversy and destruction. This is what's coming up for many in the field of vision of spiritual enlightenment. And Brenda is saying, I'm willing to tackle the issues in order to show people how to get out of them. That's what she does. And so that's why she gets until February 22nd to kind of rejuvenate her whole soul again to one of It's like the magic and wonder and the mystery of her heart. So with that, have an amazing, amazing holiday season. Take your hearts in your hands, literally place them there, and love who you are. Literally know that that beating heart shows that you are loved and you are meant to be here on this plane. Be there within that moment. Open up your soul to another nature of love, which is the idea that when I bring through your soul, you will know you are never alone. You are always guided. You are always loved. Whether or not you perceive it in any one moment or not makes no difference. It is just an inner knowing. So have a wonderful, wonderful week, weekend, and month. Goodbye.